Tyson Fury Glovegate. Tyson Fury's win over Deontay Wilder wasn't shocking because it happened, it was shocking because of how it happened. Fury controlled every round, wearing Wilder down with pressure. But something about it kept fans replaying the footage. Slow-motion replays showed Fury's gloves flopping at strange angles. Some clips made it look like the padding had shifted, or even vanished. At certain moments, his gloves seemed to bend unnaturally at the wrist, almost as if his hand wasn't all the way inside. That was enough to spark a full-on internet investigation. Fans dissected frames, YouTubers made side-by-side comparisons, Twitter threads turned into hour-long breakdowns. Wilder's brother claimed Fury had cheated. Wilder himself posted cryptic videos and later said the gloves didn't have proper knuckle padding. Nevada's commission said everything checked out. Officials had inspected the gloves, and both teams, including Wilder's, had signed off before the fight. No foul play was ever confirmed. Still, the theory refused to die. A knockout artist isn't supposed to get walked down and stopped. Not like that. So fans did what they always do when the story doesn't add up. They looked closer, and they didn't like what they saw in the glove. Manny Pacquiao's shoulder excuse. The Mayweather-Pacquiao fight was supposed to be the one. Years of hype, two of the biggest names in boxing, 12 cautious rounds, and a clear win for Floyd. Then, after the decision, Pacquiao dropped a bomb. He had a torn rotator cuff. He said it happened during training camp. He said the Nevada Commission denied him a pain-killing injection right before the fight. But here's what didn't add up. No one saw any signs of injury during fight week. Pacquiao was shadowboxing in front of cameras, throwing punches with no hesitation, smiling, doing interviews, no sling, no wrap, no limp jab. The commission said he didn't check the injury box on the pre-fight form. So when his team asked for a pain shot hours before the bout, the answer was no. The reaction was split. Some believed him, especially when he got surgery right after the fight. Others called it damage control, a way to explain away a fight that never really started. Mayweather even looked confused in the ring as Pacquiao smiled and blamed the shoulder in the post-fight interview. The injury turned out to be real, but for a lot of fans, it still felt like an excuse. Canelo's tainted beef. In 2018, just months before his massive rematch with Gennady Golovkin, Canelo Alvarez failed 2 drug tests. The banned substance? Clenbuterol, a performance enhancer often used to burn fat and retain muscle. His explanation? Contaminated Mexican beef. And honestly, that wasn't a wild claim. Mexico had a real issue with clenbuterol in livestock. Athletes had tested positive. Even the World Anti-Doping Agency had warned about it. But this wasn't just any athlete. This was Canelo, about to headline a $100 million fight. The timing couldn't have been worse. The Nevada Commission bought the story, sort of. They accepted the tainted meat defense, but still handed him a 6-month suspension. The rematch with Golovkin was delayed, and the boxing world lit up with speculation. Golovkin wasn't subtle about it. He said the levels were too high. He called Canelo a cheater. He pointed at Canelo's physique, his power, his recovery time. Every detail became suspect. No hard evidence ever surfaced to prove intentional doping. But the whole thing left a mark. Even after the suspension ended, the questions didn't. When your legacy hinges on split decisions and mega fights, a failed test, even with an explanation, turns into a permanent asterisk. Deontay Wilder's costuming. In 2020, Deontay Wilder walked to the ring wearing 40 pounds of armor and LED lights. After getting battered by Tyson Fury, fans wanted to know what happened. Wilder blamed the costume. The outfit he wore to the ring, complete with lights and a helmet, had drained his legs. He said it was a tribute to Black History Month, but by the time the bell rang, he claimed, he was already gassed. Fans didn't buy it. Within hours, the internet found clips of Wilder bragging about training with 45-pound weighted vests. Fury wore a heavy entrance robe, too, and still danced through the fight. It became a meme before the night was over. But Wilder didn't stop there. He later floated more theories. Someone spiked his water. His trainer betrayed him by throwing in the towel. The referee let Fury cheat. None of it was proven. Still, the costume excuse stuck out. Not just because it was bizarre, but because it came so fast, before the post-fight dust had even settled. Most saw it as a deflection. Others thought it revealed how unprepared Wilder had been for Fury's pressure. Either way, it became part of the story. Anthony Joshua's illness versus Ruiz. Anthony Joshua's U.S. debut in 2019 was meant to be a coronation. Madison Square Garden, prime time, a statement. But instead of a highlight reel, fans got a meltdown. Andy Ruiz Jr., a last-minute replacement with a soft midsection and fast hands, knocked Joshua down 4 times and stopped him in the 7th round. The upset shook the heavyweight division, and immediately, the whispers started. Joshua didn't look right. He was sweating before the walkout. His eyes looked glassy. His arms seemed stiff. Some said he had a panic attack in the locker room. Others said he'd been knocked out in sparring earlier that week. A few claimed he had the flu. or was concussed, or medicated. After the fight, cameras caught Joshua's father arguing with promoter Eddie Hearn in the ring, loudly. That only added fuel to the theories. Joshua later admitted he wasn't 100%, but wouldn't say more. He gave Ruiz full credit and stayed composed, but the silence said plenty. What made it stranger was the rematch. 6 months later, Joshua outboxed Ruiz easily. No drama, no knockdowns, no panic, just business. And that's what stuck with fans. The first fight didn't look like an off night. It looked like something was wrong, but to this day, nobody really knows what. Ali Liston 2, Phantom Punch. It's the most famous punch that nobody saw. In 1965, Muhammad Ali fought Sonny Liston for the second and ended the fight in less than 2 minutes with a right hand that barely looked like it landed. Liston hit the canvas. The ref hesitated. Ali didn't even go to a neutral corner. He just stood over Liston, yelling at him to get up. The whole thing was chaos. For decades, fans have debated what really happened. Was it a dive, a fix, a clean punch that landed just right? The footage doesn't help much. There's no clear impact, no follow-through, no reaction from Liston until he's already falling. Ali called it the anchor punch, something he said he learned in training camp. But even he looked surprised when Liston went down. The referee, Jersey Joe Walcott, didn't even start a proper count right away. He lost track of the rules mid-fight. Liston had mob ties. That wasn't a secret. And he had everything to lose if he kept fighting a prime undefeated Ali. Some think he took a dive to cash out. Others say he got caught clean and never saw it coming. Either way, the knockout didn't look real. And in boxing, perception often becomes truth. Don King and the judges. For decades, Don King was the most powerful and most controversial promoter in boxing. He wore the crown, waved the flag, and somehow always seemed to have the winning fighter, even when they didn't look like the winner. That's where the judging comes in. King was a master at building stars and stacking the deck. Many of his biggest events, especially in the 80s and 90s, ended with razor-thin decisions that just happened to favor his guy. Fighters who lost would call it a robbery. Reporters raised eyebrows, but nothing stuck. The secret wasn't always in bribes or envelopes. It was control. King often promoted both fighters. He worked closely with sanctioning bodies, and he had long-standing relationships with commissions and officials. In a system where judges are appointed, not questioned, influence travels quietly. One of the most infamous examples? Julio Cesar Chavez versus Pernell Whitaker in 1993. Most fans had Whitaker clearly winning. The punch stats did too. But the result? A draw. Chavez kept his title, and Don King kept the spotlight. King's name became so synonymous with shady outcomes that people would groan when a close decision was announced. If King was in the ring smiling, everyone already knew what the scorecards would say.
He didn't throw punches,
but he controlled everything else. Saudi Arabia scorecards. Lately, Saudi Arabia has become boxing's new hotspot. Giant purses, lavish venues, walkouts that feel like Super Bowl halftime shows. But beneath the shine, a pattern's starting to emerge, and fans are noticing. It's the scorecard. When the fights are close, the A side, the bigger star, the main draw, usually gets the nod, even when it doesn't quite make sense. Take Usyk versus Joshua 2. Usyk clearly outboxed. He landed more, moved better, finished stronger. But one judge, Glenn Feldman, somehow scored the fight for Joshua. Usyk still won on the other cards, but Feldman's score sparked outrage. It didn't pass the eye test. Then there's Fury versus Ngannou. A debut boxer, Ngannou, dropped the lineal champ and pushed him to the brink. Most people watching thought Ngannou pulled off the upset, but 2 judges gave it to Fury. Barely. The reaction? Confusion, then anger. So what's going on? I mean, some say it's just bad judging. Others think it's strategic. These Saudi cards are massive investments. If the star loses, so does the sequel. And when you're paying tens of millions for a fight, you don't want your headliner walking away with an L. Nothing's been proven, but fans have started calling it Saudi math. A different kind of scoring, where the fighter with the most leverage usually wins. The WBC franchise belt loophole. In 2019, the WBC introduced something new and confusing: the franchise champion. It wasn't a belt you won in the ring, it was a status, a title given, not earned. The first recipient? Canelo Alvarez. What did it mean? Basically, it made Canelo immune to mandatory challenger. He could fight who he wanted, when he wanted. The WBC called it a reward for elite fighters. Most fans called it a loophole. Then things got messy. The silly Lomachenko got the same status when he lost to Teofimo Lopez. People assumed Lopez had become the undisputed lightweight champion, but the WBC said no, because Devin Haney had the regular belt. Now there were 2 champions in the same division. Lopez called himself undisputed. Haney disagreed, fans picked sides, the WBC shrugged. Critics accused the WBC of doing what sanctioning bodies often, chasing money and control. More belts mean more sanction fusion, means more headlines. And for fighters, the franchise status came with perks, less risk, more freedom. Eventually, the backlash caught up. The WBC started backing off the whole idea. No new franchise titles were handed out, but the damage was already done. For a while, a fighter could win a fight and still not be the champion. That's not a loophole, that's a rewrite of how boxing works. Mayweather's protected record. Floyd Mayweather retired at 50-0. No losses, no controversies on the official record, just pure, polished dominance. But for years, people have debated how much of that zero was skill and how much was strategy. Make no mistake, Floyd was a defensive genius. He made world-class fighters miss by inches. He adapted mid-fight. He almost never got hit clean. But the timing of his fights raised eyebrows. He faced Canelo when Canelo was only 23. He fought Pacquiao 5 years after fans wanted it. He waited out dangerous punchers. When guys were at their peak, he made them wait. When they slipped just a little, then he signed the contract. It wasn't ducking, it was calculated. He also had control. He picked the venue, the gloves, the weight, even the ring size. Everything went through Mayweather Promotion. He worked with Al Heyman, a powerful advisor who helped make sure the business side lined up with the boxing side. And when fights were close, like against Castillo or Maidana, he still got the benefit of the doubt. Not because of a fix, but because stars get star treatment. Judges leaned toward the guy everyone paid to see. In the end, 50-0 is real, but for some fans, it came with an asterisk. Not because Floyd didn't earn it, but because he made sure he never had to risk losing. Mob control in the 1950s, boxing wasn't just about promoters and trainers. It was about gangsters. The mob didn't just influence the sport, they ran it from the inside. Frankie Carbo, a Lucchese crime family enforcer, was the real power behind this. He operated under aliases, used frontmen, and pulled strings at the highest level. Most fans had never heard his name, but fighters and managers knew exactly who was in charge. If you wanted a title shot, you had to deal with the mob. If you didn't play ball, you were frozen out. Some fighters were forced to sign contracts that gave control of their careers to Carbo's crew. Others were threatened, or worse. One of the most famous cases was Ike Williams, a lightweight champion who later admitted he was told not to knock out certain opponents. He said mob-connected managers took huge cuts of his earnings while keeping him in line through intimidation. Fights were fixed, judges were bought, and outcomes could be decided before the bell ever. The mob treated boxing like a casino where they controlled the odds. Eventually, the feds stepped in. Carbo was convicted in the early 60s and control started to shift. The damage lingered. Even today, boxing still carries the shadow of those years.